I would like to welcome Vladimir. The floor is yours, and we're all very eager to hear you talk to us.
Thanks, Stratis, for the intro. I'm 42 years old, and it's been some time ago indeed that we were in the university lab, and ever since I have dealt with the AI, but at the intersection of AI and entrepreneurship, really trying to, as I think I put on my LinkedIn profile, crack the nut of AI product market fit. So that's something that I tried with my own startup, and that I tried to help other teams work on and achieve, or at least support them in this journey. But it is quite a journey. Okay, I will share my screen if possible. Let me see. One moment. So here we go. Stratis, can you see the screen? Can you guys see the screen?
I can, yes. I think the system has a bit of a trouble with the mute unmute, but we can see your screen. Well, we can see too many of your screens. It seems to be in loop.
Now, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go with this. So, good afternoon, everybody. Again, let's try to make this brief and to the point. I'm here on behalf of the ACE AI Lab, and ACE is an incubator that has offices in the Startup Village in Science Park of Amsterdam. And ACE is the incubator, the academic incubator of Amsterdam's institutions, educational institutions, the two universities, the two medical centra, which have joined forces, and the University of Applied Sciences Hogeschool van Amsterdam. So all these educational institutes are stakeholders in ACE, and it is they basically want to promote entrepreneurship among their students, and we are here to support those students. So we basically, the mission is to empower entrepreneurial students to launch their AI-based startups. This is specific to the AI lab, of course. So ACE has its own incubator where they accept teams which already have some ideas. We take a slightly different approach that I will talk about in a moment. But we focus on AI, and we are there to support them in any way possible. Now, typically, so we are here at the intersection of two things: at the artificial intelligence domain and acceleration of business or entrepreneurship. And of course, we can make this a long discussion, the artificial intelligence domain, but I think it's clear to everybody by now that that this is a domain full of hype, and there are some alarming numbers about or percentages about the failed projects, enterprise or otherwise. And it was a science fiction some years ago, and then it has rapidly advanced into the mainstream with very high expectations, because everybody thought, okay, it's finally arrived, it can solve all our problems. Well, it's actually, it has yet to go through the hype cycle of Gartner's, through the dip, through the trough of disillusionment. And actually, the best analysis of the domain that I have found so far, it's already almost 2 years old, is by a Silicon Valley investment firm, Andreessen Horowitz, that basically concluded that AI is still early in the transition from research to production technologies. So they, as investors, thought that this was just another version or type of a software technology. Well, it's not, because it depends also on data, and there's a lot of experimentation involved, and there's a lot of high manual costs and so on. But so the playbook is still being written, but the expectations are high. So that's one side of things. On the other end, you have the typical incubator and accelerator, which basically will accept teams or scout for teams that have a solution already for some problems that they have identified. But this is in case of technology and deep tech and especially AI, very often you end up in a technology push. That's not something we want. We want to validate that there's a need, that there's a demand in the market. So we want to avoid this being a technology push and imposing onto clients some solution that they might not need. So, however, the incubators and accelerators, they assume that this market demand has been identified, and they focus on strengthening the business skills of their teams. And they also assume that the technology part, that the product can be developed and grown and scaled by the founding team, which is also not always the case. Now, a lot of these assumptions are not true, and technology push has never been a good idea. So what we do at AI Startup Lab is we turn the model a bit around. On the one hand, we work with our partners, the corporate partners, with which we go through a process. You can call it AI discovery, you can call it, I don't know, AI strategy, whatever it is, but it's basically identifying some high value use cases for the company where AI might be the solution. It's not necessarily the solution. There may be a way easier or simpler solution for their problem, but AI might be one, because the case should rely on a lot of data and have a repetitive task and so on. So AI might be a good fit. Now we come with a team that has some experience in this domain, and we scope this AI use case to what we call a challenge. Now this challenge then comes with the data, very clear goal, very clear metrics to evaluate it by, and so on. And then this is one side of the story. On the other end, we recruit student teams. We make sure that they are multidisciplinary, that they are complementary, and that they are as diverse as possible in terms of perspectives, because such teams, we believe in such teams having a higher chance of success. So we then match the two. We bring use cases which imply demand from the market, and we match them with the teams of students that we select, that are, first of all, interested in working on such solutions and building a startup around this idea. And we carefully select them, and then they enter a program of 3 months. Which is different from the typical incubator program. We do not focus on business skills. We just focus on the challenge at hand and make sure that we create a proof of concept, a demonstrable prototype that can be shown, presented to the client and to a larger audience, and that also, and this is important for students, that also represents a sort of a better version of their future startup, because that's the idea, that we empower these students, we let them taste entrepreneurship, and they have the opportunity to create some sort of a basis for their startup, that if this proof of concept is successful, they can build on top of it, create a company, and hopefully also have work further with the client that was the sponsor of their challenge. So this is the core team at the moment. Jürgen Sondag will talk to you in a moment from another perspective on entrepreneurship. Myself and Pavel are there as well, trying to work together and support these students. We are all entrepreneurs. We all have some more or less experience with AI, and we also rely a lot on our network in this domain to coach the students, to help them, to inspire them with entrepreneurial stories, and to connect them to people that might help them further. So far, it's been working very well. It has started at the beginning of 2020, the AI lab, and we have supported 63 students, mostly from Amsterdam, but also we have been recognized outside of Amsterdam. So that's nice to see. We have finished or completed 13 challenges and are now in the process of running 3, 2 with hospitals, so with health partners, and 1 with Kraft Heinz, the large FMCG food company. And out of the 13 completed challenges, 5 startups have emerged already. So that's more than 38% conversion rate, which is quite something we're quite proud of. And we have interesting corporate partners, a diverse group from media to banks to consultancy and health partners. That's it. Thank you for your attention. I would like to engage a bit with the audience if there are any questions. So I'm all yours for a couple of more minutes.
If there is anyone who would like to ask a question, please click on the blue button called Share Audio and Video. Or if you would prefer so, you can also just type your question in the Q&A or in the chat, and I will transfer the question for you. So in the meantime, perhaps I can kickstart with a question. So what about, is this like program just for master students or bachelor students, or does it work also for PhD students or more senior researchers?
Very good question. So we focus on master students at the moment. We think that this is the best group to start with. However, we would love to also support PhD students and researchers. We are not well. There are a couple of things that have to come together for this. Currently, the researchers are quite busy. They don't really have time for any ideas outside of the research topic. I know that from my own experience, of course, and as well. So we are working together also with educational institutions and other initiatives to facilitate this. But at the moment, our focus is on master students, and we see that it's mostly finishing master students, so second-year master students who are trying to explore their options. They are in a good position to try out, let's say, the AI lab.
All right, thanks. Well, of course, there are also physicians that are about to graduate, and some of them might have good ideas and the time as well. But okay, that's a very clear answer. We do have one question by Latif Bolum. So is it possible to join outside of Holland, or is this just for people in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands?
Right. We have had teams outside, we have had people outside of Holland. But this is primarily aimed at Amsterdam's students and then also Dutch students. So you need to be enrolled, somebody at least from the team or ideally the majority of the team should be enrolled at a Dutch university. But the can bring in a team member, for example, that has graduated already or that resides outside of Holland. And so we've had that before, and we're open for this. But our focus remains on Amsterdam students and secondary on other Dutch institutions.
Right. I see. Well, good. Thanks for the question on behalf of Herbert. Ladif. Another question is from Marcel Arts. He's asking if there is a life after ACE. That is, do the startups scale up, or is there some sort of growth beyond ACE? Have you checked that? Are there, let's say, solutions for that, or thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Actually, that goes beyond this particular discussion, I'm afraid. Ideally, from my perspective, this should be really a funnel that starts with the educational program, so that there's some program, a minor or track that you can enroll at and already start working on this with the project in AI Startup Lab being like a graduation project or so. That then, if once validated or with the proof of concept on this particular case, being a case for this particular client, can enter an ACE incubation program to work more on generalization, let's say, to make sure that this applies to the market at large, to boost the market skills and so on. And ideally, there should also be sort of an alumni community that we should be part of and create events for, because that's in my own experience with other accelerators has not really been done well. But there should be indeed a sort of a trajectory that we should not only facilitate but also be in together.
Right. Thank you very much. I should have more questions, but let's have just one last one from the audience, and perhaps we can discuss at a later point. TX, that's a very short name, but anyways, asks whether you can actually give an overview of the sectors of the economy that have benefited most from your initiatives. So you mentioned that a tech push is not favorable. Therefore, what areas have the need for AI in terms of market need from your perspective? And a follow-up question, does it work, for instance, in the field of media?
Right. There are some, how should I answer this? There are some sectors, some industries that are more open and more willing and more mature for this than others. In principle, it should not matter because AI is a horizontal, it's not a vertical, it's an enabling technology, so it should not matter. But for example, health is more professional. Media should not be an issue. We've had DPG, I believe the biggest media company in Benelux, DPG Media. We've had 3 challenges with them. 2 at the beginning of this year on robot journalism and on summarization of articles and so on. So in principle, any sector, some are more ready than others, and media is no problem.
I see. Okay, there's actually an interesting question, which I guess it makes sense to ask now. But if you can answer it very quickly, that will be best. So, what is your business model? if Laurens may ask, Laurens Jansen.
The business model is at the moment. We are going through remodeling. The business model is that we charge the corporate sponsors for contribution of managing these projects from the very beginning of scoping. So let's say the strategic part with them, scoping these AI AI challenges, all the way to leading the teams into building a successful proof of concept. So
Right.
it's a per project basis for now.
Right. Well, thank you very much. That was a clear
Thank
answer.
you.
So I think that's also an important question for the audience, so that they can easily reach out to you. So I think it was a great first keynote by Vlado, and it will be, of course, even better to have it live. I know that Vlado is an excellent speaker, but in the meantime, we can virtually applaud you.
Thank you.
And